This episode of Q Point Podcast is pre-recorded, produced and sponsored by Karina Quirk, broker at Next Home Experience.
Different views.
I know your story.
From different Q's.
Incredible job.
He's David Quirk.
You brought it up.
And she's Karina Quirk.
Imagine.
This is
Q Point.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 with Democratic candidate for Hancock County Sheriff, Lieutenant Dakota Dupuis.
So I was reading your website where you say that you're going to be working one night shift a week.
Yeah, what I've seen in some leadership trainings and what I've seen worked well amongst some other agencies is oftentimes you have administrators that get promoted, they sit behind a desk, and they lose touch to some extent with what's actually going on the road or with the boots on the ground. So I think in order to effectively lead an agency and to understand the challenges that your staffing experiences and to be able to help them and advocate for them most appropriately, you have to be able to stay in touch with what's actually going on. So one thing that I have pledged to do or stated that I will do is there's 4 administrators at the sheriff's office. As such, we will all work one night shift a month, effectively one a week. That way, beyond just myself, you will see that the administrators have a sense of understanding of what the deputies are facing. They'll be able to better understand the challenges that they face. They'll be able to better understand what they could do to better assist the deputies so that they can more effectively do their job, maybe more efficiently do their job, and be in touch with what's going on, both with the deputies but also the community. That's important. By doing that, it will also continue to foster good working relationships within the department, with outside agencies, with the community, and so forth. So that is something that I have pledged to do. I will expect the same of the other administrators if elected. That would be my plan moving forward. I do think that's important.
Do you have plans to have your deputies out in the community more?
Yeah. For me, as far as administration goes, we really had an overhaul in administration a couple years back. And since that time, we've really looked to restructure the agency again to make them more efficient, to bring more structure to the agency and really look at moving us ahead. It's a 5 to 10 year plan. One of those things was to encourage the deputies to be involved with the community. What makes a good deputy or a good law enforcement officer is somebody that is motivated, that wants to do the job, but is also proactive. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago what proactive meant to me, it would be a very different answer from what I would give you today. Proactive to me 10 years ago would have meant stopping cars, finding drugs, and arresting impaired drivers. That's what I found enjoyment in. And that's kind of what excited me 10 years ago. Now, as an administrator, 10 years later, that answer would be different. I've learned and come to understand that not everybody is motivated by stopping cars. When I expect the deputies to be proactive, what I really mean by that is I want them to engage with the community. If a deputy doesn't like to stop cars, okay, go stop in at the schools. Go stop in at the town offices or local businesses. If you want to stop cars, that's great. If you want to go conduct warrant checks or bail checks, that's great. Again, if you want to stop in at the schools, that's equally as great. So being proactive to me means getting out of the office, being seen in the community, and interacting with the community. Ultimately, I think that's where we're able to provide the best service. I don't like seeing individuals inside the office. If you need to come in to type a report, that's one thing. But other than that, we're expected to provide a service to the citizens and they want to see us out in the communities. That's what I expect of the deputies. I do expect the deputies to be community oriented in that sense.
You are listening to Q Point Podcast. I'm Karina Quirk, co-hosting with my husband, David Quirk, and we are having a conversation with the Democratic candidate for Hancock County Sheriff, Lieutenant Dakota Dupuis.
So earlier we were talking about the budget, and I'm sure you've listened to some of the podcasts and you can hear all the candidates talking about property tax being so high. So you're going to have a real challenge trying to get more staff and more funding when the same people are complaining about the property tax. Do you have a plan for that?
Certainly, yeah. That's something that we hear often. Nobody wants to see their property taxes go up. But at the same time, people want services as well. So it's a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword in some senses. As far as the budget goes, that's something that I oversee currently in my position. A lot of people may not realize that the budget, at least for the sheriff's office, it's best described in a divided sense. What I mean by that is you have your operational costs as far as your equipment, vehicles, gas, maintenance, but then a large portion of our budget is wages and fringe benefits. really, most people don't realize that the administrators at the sheriff's office don't really have much say over a large portion of our budget, which is the wages and fringe benefits, because that's actually something that's negotiated with the patrol union in conjunction with the commissioners. So by de facto, the commissioners in some sense determine a large portion of our budget with whatever they negotiate with the union. Some of that is out of our control, but we certainly do work at mitigating some of those other expenses that are within our purview, equipment, staffing, and things of that nature. One thing that we look to do is, due to our size of our agency, we look at turning vehicles over or replacing 4 to 5 vehicles every year. That way you don't have a year where you need 10 or 12 vehicles, and it's just kind of a steady budgeting process. In the commissioners, a few years back, we switched to Chevy Tahoes. There were some benefits to that at the time, and there still is. But the commissioners at that point in time also asked us to hold on to our vehicles a little bit longer in order to see some longevity out of them and combat some of those budgeting issues. So that's one instance. Some other scenarios of what we've looked to acquire in the budget is AEDs. That's something that I had put in the budget this year and that I felt was important. Oftentimes, especially working rural patrol, our deputies respond to medical calls as well whenever they're in that area or able to do so or assist in any way. And a lot of these towns in rural patrol, they have volunteer services or ambulances are coming out of a more urban area, whether that be the Blue Hill area, Bar Harbor, Ellsworth, and so forth. Oftentimes, deputies may be at a medical call long before an ambulance or a medical first responder is there. So the AEDs should play a crucial role in that the medical services that deputy is able to provide, and hopefully some individuals, their lives will be saved as a result. Just looking at different things that we can incorporate in the budget that ultimately, again, will best serve the citizens or the community. But as you mentioned, as far as keeping the budget in mind and the increases year after year, that's certainly something that's not lost on us. It's a balancing act between the operational expenses, looking to grow in different areas while also trying to mitigate that bottom percentage.
Do you have enough staffing? I know you mentioned you'd like to add a couple positions at the jail. What is patrol like?
For patrol, we structure our staffing a little bit differently than some other agencies. I ultimately would like to increase staffing. I don't think that we need a dozen deputies by any means, but if we were able to add 4 deputies, that would be, for lack of better words, a game changer for us. Even a couple deputy positions would certainly prove to be useful and provide a lot of relief. As I mentioned earlier, we cover a very large geographical area. And that includes anywhere from Deer Isle, Stonington over to Castine to Denham and Ellsworth up to Route 9. We currently do not provide any law enforcement services on MDI. However, we will certainly assist if ever requested. They are currently patrolled by their municipalities right now. Down to Bennington, where it meets Washington County, and then up north up to almost Route 6. It's a very large geographical area, and with only having 2 or 3 deputies working at a particular time, we divide the county into 3 slots or zones for coverage, and we call share with the state police. They cover one of those 3 zones every day and night, so we're responsible for the other 2. There's a large portion of the year where we're on opposite ends of the county. So when you have one deputy covering the Deer Isle Stonington area and you have another deputy covering the Route 9 area, very often, whether the public realizes it or not, which is something I've been working to try to provide that information on over this past year, is if that deputy in Deer Isle Stonington needs assistance, okay, well, that deputy from the Route 9 area is going over there to assist them. And so now if something happens in Hancock, Sullivan, Route 9, that side of the county, it's a very long response time before those individuals may see a deputy. And as I mentioned as well, it's a safety concern both for the community and the citizens, but also the deputies that are out by themselves on these calls for service. We're seeing many more calls nowadays that require multiple deputies respond than we have previously, whether that's due to drug issues, mental health issues, and things of that nature. And ultimately, we aim to resolve those in the safest and most practical way possible. Sometimes the easiest way to do that is with multiple deputies. We certainly face geographic and staffing challenges. And as I mentioned before as well, it's certainly different than municipal policing, where you have a larger amount of officers in a closer proximity. So we're never going to be able to get to that in that aspect of having that many people or that close response time. But with additional staffing, you also could presumably see shorter response times. You could see better assistance for the deputies that are out working the road. We would be able to structure those positions to better assist or alleviate some deputies so that they could spend additional time working investigations or following up on their reports. It would greatly benefit the sheriff's office, the citizens, and specifically the deputies for their quality of living.
In the wintertime, there's a car accident. Does the sheriff department handle those?
Yes, we handle any and all car crashes that occur in any of the areas that we're providing law enforcement coverage to at that particular time. As I mentioned, we divide the county up into 3 sections or zones. So we provide coverage day and night to 66% of the county.
Because I was thinking those causeways in Deer Island, Stonington freeze up pretty darn easy. And if you're in Castine, you're going to be there a while.
Yeah, they certainly do freeze. And even at different times of the year with weather, with rising tides and windstorms and things of that nature, sometimes that causeway is underwater. So we do rely heavily on any assistance that we can get from the Maine State Police, the Warden Service, or Maine Marine Patrol. But the reality is they may be handling their own calls for service, or their troopers or wardens or Marine Patrol officers may be assisting somebody else in another area. Although it's easy to say, oh, well, you can always call on them for assistance, and we certainly do, the reality is they're not always available either. That's kind of the unfortunate circumstance that we're faced with. But additional staffing certainly could help with that. Now, once again, we're kind of faced with that balancing act with the budget. We're just trying to find that happy medium and what will be supported.
What about reserve officers? Do you have that capability in the sheriff's department?
We do have the capability. We currently have 1. Some of the challenges that go along with that is it takes some buy-in from that individual. We don't have the same amount of applications coming through the door that we once did 5 or even 10 years ago. With that being said, staffing challenges, whether it's full-time or part-time, are there. So when it comes to a part-time officer, while we do have the ability to utilize them, that pool is very small for a couple of reasons. They have to complete a 40-hour online course, which is basically the fundamentals surrounding ethics and different laws that gives them a foundation or an understanding of what to expect in the next phase. That's called phase 1, the 40-hour online course. And then phase 2 is a 2-week in-person course. That's when they kind of go through the actual practical fundamentals. So they'll do mock traffic stops, how to handle car crashes, things of that nature. But it does require some buy-in from the individual. And oftentimes when they're attending those courses, they're paying for them out of pocket because there's a cost associated with that. They may not be paid for their time there. So it is a challenge. Oftentimes the individuals that you see that do that usually go on to be hired full-time. So they may get their part-time certification, they get hired full-time, and now you're down no part-timers again. It is an option that we have. It's just that there are not many individuals out there that have that part-time certification. Another thing that we uniquely face in Hancock County that may be different than like Penobscot County, for example, is a couple things. One, we don't have the same pool of law enforcement officers. And what I mean by that is if you look at Penobscot County, where I worked previously, you have many other agencies. You have Old Town, Orono, Hamden, VZ. You've got Penobscot County Sheriff's Office. You've got the Bangor Police Department. So there is a much larger pool of certified officers for you to fill your staff with. In Hancock County, we have Bar Harbor Police Department, Southwest Police Department, Bucksport, and Ellsworth. So Penobscot County may have 300 certified officers, and Hancock County may have, not including the Hancock County Sheriff's Office, we may have 60. There's definitely a disparity there as far as the certified personnel that we can pull from. A couple other things is that Hancock County does not have Husson University. They do not have Eastern Maine Community College. So those are other challenges that we face. We have been fortunate to try to be a stakeholder in that. I've helped assist in instructing some courses at Eastern Maine Community College previously. I know a couple of other of our deputies have as well. By doing that and having some of that face time and that interaction with those college students, we have been able to hire some of them, which helped with staffing issues. We currently just hired an individual that's set to start at the end of the month. That was in Eastern Maine Community College. We also have hired at least 3 others that have attended Eastern Maine Community College. Although those are areas that we kind of dip into to look at helping our staffing, they're just additional challenges that are unique to Hancock County that we face.
You are campaigning to become sheriff. How are you going to separate yourself?
I'm obviously young in my career. I say that as a benefit and also as kind of a detriment. People look at me and they see my age or my youthful appearance. I feel a lot older than I look. But for me, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I've been able to see the different levels of government. local, from working myself at a municipality, working at the state level, working at the county level. I've been involved with the budget process. I've overseen the operations of the sheriff's office. I've had a wide array of responsibilities and experiences over the past decade or so. I feel that those qualify me for this position, but ultimately I want to move the sheriff's office forward, to continue to improve the quality of life for the deputies. I want to provide them the resources to be able to effectively work within their communities and ultimately provide that community outreach between the sheriff's office and the communities and the citizens themselves. I want to continue to build on the community trust, the partnerships with other agencies, local, state, and federal, really work to best serve the citizens. On my website, I've pledged on there, and I mean this even beyond that. I want to listen to what concerns the citizens the most and tailor our law enforcement resources to most effectively handle those issues and those concerns. The other thing that is a little bit different for me is oftentimes you have individuals that may run for office at the end of their career. They may be retirement eligible. It's kind of viewed as a risky thing to run for office because you are an elected individual and that could end after 4 years. So a lot of times people do that at the end of their career because they're already retirement eligible. For me, I'll put it bluntly, I'm not. I've got to work another 13 years before I can retire. Although I strive to improve the sheriff's office and build the community ties, in some respects, I also have to make sure I do a good enough job to get reelected 3 times. So that's a little bit different for me. Oftentimes, you don't see individuals that will do this at this point in their career, but I think it's the next step. I do think that I have the qualifications to succeed in this position and move the sheriff's office forward. I intend on filling out my administration with individuals that have the experience and knowledge to effectively lead the sheriff's office forward. What you will see from my administration is it's not individuals that, for lack of better words, are yes men. I think there's a value in individuals that are willing to disagree with you and voice those disagreements, because I think it's important to see both sides of an issue, really to be able to make the most informative decision. That's what I intend to fill my administration with, is individuals that are willing to bring other viewpoints and positions to the table so that we can collectively come up with the best decisions for the sheriff's office, the patrol division, the corrections, and the citizens of Hancock County. I would say what stands me apart is my wide array of experience thus far in my career, my eagerness to improve the sheriff's office and move it forward, my willingness to listen to the community, my willingness to listen to different sides of issues and to invite disagreements, because ultimately I think that's how you make the most informative decisions.
Is your family ready for a campaign?
They are. Although I grew up in Hancock County, I built a house with my wife in Orrington about 5 years ago. Part of this, as being elected as sheriff, you have to reside in the county that you work. So my wife and my 2 young kids, Archer and Harrison, they have fully jumped on board. We're taking a leap of faith here. We listed our house for sale and are in the process of selling that. We have bought land in Denham, actually coincidentally, quite literally a few houses down from where I grew up. So we intend on building there and have started that process. We have since moved to Ellsworth. So there's been a lot of changes going on within my family and work and professional life lately, but they are fully on board and have been very supportive. It's something that they're also looking forward to. As I mentioned earlier, both professionally and personally, this is the next step in my career. We'll see how it works out.
Before we let you go, what's the best way for somebody to get involved in your campaign?
They can find me on Facebook at Dakota Dupuis for Sheriff. They can also find me online at dupuisforsheriff.com. And that's DUPUIS for sheriff.com. And from that website, you'll be able to also find links to the social media pages and see different information about me, my beliefs, views, what I stand for, and where I hope to bring the sheriff's office in the future. You can also find a way to stay involved or be provided updates along the way. Ultimately, you'll also be able to find a way to donate to the campaign if you desire to do so.
Democratic candidate for Hancock County Sheriff, Lieutenant Dakota Dupuis. It's such a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. It was very nice to meet you as well.
Yes, thanks for coming in. We do appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been listening to Q Point.
Follow us at qpointpodcast.com or on your favorite streaming app.
This is where you can get the news from the people who make the news.
Make sure to join us next time.
We hope you tune in.
Q Point Podcast invites guests and candidates from all parties to join the conversation. The views, information, opinions, and comments expressed during this program do not necessarily represent those of the host, Q Point Podcast, associates, affiliates, and CQRE LLC.
Thanks for being a part of the conversation. The most important voices aren't always the loudest ones. They're the voices of everyday people, raising families, running businesses, serving their towns. That's who we want to hear from. Share your ideas with us online, and let's make sure those voices are never left out. Find us on Facebook or on X or at qpointpodcast.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Catch every episode at qpointpodcast.com or wherever you stream. Tune in and tell your friends.